the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go. Hi, everybody. This is Tracy Stuckrath with Thrive Meetings and Events and Eating at a Meeting podcast. And I am so excited today to have Allie Bahn with me today. She is the lifestyle guru for the food allergy community. She has lived with life-threatening allergies to numerous foods, including 4 of the top 8 allergens, and we'll go through that in a few minutes, as well as having environmental allergies and asthma her entire life. She has written a blog for children with food allergies and their parents called Miss Allergic Reactor since 2008. Allie has lived abroad for years and is a frequent traveler and shares her tips and recommendations on her website, social media, and in the Allergy Travels Facebook group where she is a co-founder. Allie, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And I mean, we have known each other through social media for a while, but we met officially last fall, right?
Yeah.
At the Food Allergy Fund event?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad to see you face to face again.
Yes, same.
So here on Eating at a Meeting, I talk about, and I've told you this, about safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences. And I say usually at events and meetings, but I want to just say gatherings, and that is food is really, really important to everyone. We all have to eat. So I want to have you share what you do traveling the world, which we're not doing right now, with your food allergies. But before we get there, actually, what are your food allergies?
Okay. So my food allergies, since I was a baby, so I've always known them, to peanuts, tree nuts, fish, shellfish, potato, banana, kiwi, some legumes, mango, zucchini, like a bunch of random things. But 4 of the top 8, which are the peanuts, tree nuts, fish, and shellfish. And some actually I've tested out of 2 shellfish. So that's exciting. So, but everything else has remained the same. But anything you can add is always nice.
How many EpiPens do you carry with you?
So it really varies depending on the kind of trip that I'm going on. So if I know I'm going to be in a remote location, or if I have a really long overseas flight, I tend to carry more. I always have, usually, I'm trying to think of how many I have right now, probably 3 or 4 with me. And I'm lucky that I can get that many. I've been able to have insurance that has let me be able to attain that many without a problem. But so I usually try to have, at least 3 with me. And then just on a normal basis. And then traveling, I carry an extra bag that has just a few extra Epis, and it's an insulated bag. I keep all my Epis in an insulated bag. And that can range from 3 or 4 extra, maybe, depending on the trip. But I know not everyone has access to that. So at least if you have 2, that's really important. And then, if you can get more, especially for those longer trips and remote locations in particular, that's really important.
I did find a trick on that is that Canada does not require a prescription.
Oh yeah, I've heard that.
And go into the pharmacy and ask for them, and they're 1/3 the price of here in the States. So
crazy. It's crazy. It varies depending on country.
It does. So, that long list, and actually I worked an event back in January and I had 2 women who had 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper list of what they can and cannot eat. And so to me, I would put you as one of those individuals.
If you list them all out, I'm sure I list the most important, group things together. And I've never been someone that counts my allergies or anything like that. It was never like I don't know, a thing when I was growing up.
I don't mean to.
But yes, it's a long list for sure.
Yeah. And so how do you work with your travels all over the world? I mean, you've gone to Thailand and Vietnam, and I've been to Vietnam, so we need to talk about that at another time.
Yes.
But what do you do? I mean, it's a foreign language, and they don't necessarily label foods like they do for us here in the States or in Europe. So how do you manage that?
For sure. It totally varies depending on the country. But for example, Thailand, when I was there, I had a translated chef card. And so this is an example of a chef card. This is my English one. And it just is a note to the chef, and it says, can tell it. I can read it to you. It basically just says that I have life-threatening food allergies, and in order to avoid a reaction, make sure that these foods are not in my dish, and then also reminds chefs to make sure that they use clean utensils because of cross contact, and then just lists the allergens, and it's backwards on the screen. But that has been really helpful. I mean, that it's instrumental. Like, I can't imagine not having one of those. I think communication is always so important no matter where, and you really have to trust your gut as far as if you feel like people are listening to you and understand food allergies and are able to really make something safe. I think one of the greater challenges with traveling, and then with the communication, is like you're saying with other languages. Sometimes, for example, I was told that something culturally in Thailand is that they really want to please you and be able to, make something safe, or make something for you and have you be really happy about it. And that it potentially just to make sure that they really understand that it's food allergies, not just, something that you prefer not to eat. So going into that experience, I think it's really important to do some research ahead of time, just as cultural differences and being, more aware of what they put in food. Like, I knew going to Thailand that peanuts are really prevalent, and tree nuts, and fish, fish sauces and everything. So going into that experience, I already knew that. And so if you have the time and ability to do that research ahead, that's, I think, really key in being able to actually eat some of the food. You were saying Vietnam, which I loved Vietnam, and none of it, I didn't actually eat any of the food there. I only ate the food that I packed because I wasn't planning to go there ahead. And after years, I lived abroad. I lived in Italy for years. I lived in Australia. I've lived in some other areas of Europe too, for shorter periods of time. And I think I have a lot of that travel experience. So I know what I'm comfortable with, and I, really can trust that. But I think that, a piece of that is really knowing what you're going into and being able to sort of assess if you need to, for example, if you're not prepared and you need to just decide to stick with your own food. And that's a safe choice, but you can still experience the place. I had an incredible time in Vietnam, could not wait to go back, and none of it, it didn't have to do with the food because I hadn't done my research. So I knew if I hadn't planned and I didn't have, a chef card that was in Vietnamese, even if it was on my phone, even if I could translate on my phone, I feel much more confident. And honestly, just having something that you pass to someone and you're like, this needs to be seen in the kitchen, is so important, I think. And has saved me from having so many potential reactions. But I knew I didn't have this in Vietnam. So I made the decision for myself, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to decide to go on this, I was already in Thailand and decided to go to Vietnam from there. If I'm going to decide to do that, then, I have to make a compromise, and my compromise is going to be I'm not going to eat while I'm there besides food that I brought. And so that's what I did. And I had packed a ton of extra food, an entire, smaller suitcase pretty much of food, because I didn't know exactly. I tend to be not the most planned sometimes with trips because I don't always need to be.
Oh,
and so
why not?
Yeah, and I kind of enjoy that. So, so I just planned ahead knowing it could be really challenging, and I hadn't been to anywhere in Asia yet at that point. So I just wasn't sure what I could get at the grocery store, what to expect exactly. And, now I know, and I've I've shared a ton of that on my blog and on my like YouTube channel of just like videos of the grocery store, so that hopefully travelers can see that there are actually a ton of actually like American products and things that probably they would be surprised to see in the grocery store and don't need to like pack quite as much as I did necessarily. Totally depends on your comfort and everything. But
I liked one of the videos that you did. I think you were in Thailand, but you took over the Hershey's Kiss or Hershey's chocolate bag, and you're like, even though it's made by Hershey's, you still have to trust. You have to read the label because you can't necessarily trust the manufacturing in another country.
100%. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. That's so important. And also, a lot of those companies have actually, manufacturing in the other country, even though it's a product that, is, you think it isn't officially, maybe comes from American product, but is not actually made in the facility that you're used to buying it from. So yes, always checking. Because like from that video, you can see like it was a different label than the one that I would typically see in America, right, where I could eat it. So
and not all of them also post them in English. So sometimes you're reading those labels in that language. And so you actually have to know the words of your allergens in that specific language.
Absolutely, which is really tricky. But the best tool now, I think, is Google Translate has a camera on it, and it's incredible. Like you can literally, you don't even have to take the picture. You just hold it. It's like magic. You just like hold it over the words, and it translates them as it's like looking at it. It's crazy. But
in restaurants, amazing. Yeah, really quite helpful. So thank you
for menus. Yep, I know.
Yes. So I have these meal cards that I sell to meeting planners. And they're more individualized. I have some that are like gluten-free, dairy-free, but kind of it's bright. It's like 3x5, but it's to give you when you show up, you would get something customized because of your allergens. But it's really important. You give this to the waitress, whether you're at an event or you're in a restaurant, to say, give this to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it helps explain that. Okay. So one of the questions that I asked you pre being live was, what do you consider a safe and inclusive food and beverage experience?
Yeah. And I love the word inclusive, I think, because a lot of people, I think, feel like they are not included sometimes in the food space when they have different food allergies or celiac or some sort of, restriction that's health related. And so my expectation has always been that I want, there needs to be open communication on both sides. I feel like it's a partnership, really. It's, it's the customer and it's the food establishment, and you need to work together. It's sort of like a team effort. And my expectation is always, if they can serve me something safe and they feel comfortable with that, and I'm trusting them, it's really like it's both of us working together. That's awesome. And I think it's also important to be considerate about what they're able to provide to you. Like, I don't expect, the most amazing, totally different, unique, creation of a dish all the time. Like, if it's safe and it tastes fine, then, depending on where I am and what it is, like, that's okay. There's some times where I've traveled and it's been so hard to find anything safe. But I think if someone's willing to work with your food allergies, which are challenging and it's not easy in a kitchen and there's so much going on and there's all these other customers and all this other food and smaller spaces and many people, like, to have, I think it's really important that you don't have this crazy expectation, that you have the expectation that you're working together and you're going to be able to eat something that's safe. I think that's like a very inclusive situation. So I think it's definitely, I think communication is just so important with the entire process.
And you're right on. I don't know why I can't get those words out of my mouth. And and it's communication because you're the diner and then you're communicating to a server and then you're communicating and it's like the telephone, with the cans and the string when we were little and trying to get that message. So if your card says, this has to go to the kitchen so they can read it, I think that's valuable in making sure that communication is clear, because getting it translated, especially in a foreign country, from one to the other and on to the chef and then back to you is really hard.
Yeah, definitely.
So Erica just posted a question. So do you create this teamwork with the server only, or at what point do you meet and talk with the chef?
So that's a great question. Yeah. Typically I will see there's a few different situations. If I'm walking into a restaurant and I haven't called ahead before, typically I try to let a restaurant know if I'm coming in, if possible, because, I know that my food takes extra time and extra work and clean utensils and a lot of things that it would be helpful if they knew ahead of time. So I try to, if I know ahead, I will call ahead. And then usually when I get there, someone's like, oh yes, blah, blah, blah. And they know, and then there's already started that communication. If that hasn't happened, which, you don't always know ahead of time that you're going somewhere. And that also has happened plenty of times. I'll see how, I trust, I trust myself, and I read people's body language. And if they seem receptive to what I'm saying and their tone of voice, and I kind of go from there and I judge it that way. If I think the server really gets it, they've taken my chef card, they're like, oh, definitely I'm going to go bring this to the chef right away. And I'm going to show them, and, we have this conversation and there's really good communication between the server and I, then I feel really comfortable with just having that point of communication usually. If I don't feel like the server is understanding the severity, or they're just kind of yesing me like, okay, like I get it, then I'll go try and I'll ask for the manager. Usually that's the next step. A lot of times now chefs will come out and talk to you. Totally depends probably where, but I think it's more and more common now that if you talk to a manager, a chef will come out, or you'll talk to a server and the server will have the manager come over to the table. Depends on the restaurant, probably the area of the country you're in, all sorts of things. But I think that procedure is becoming more common. But it's really about just, seeing if they're being receptive to what you're saying and they hear you. I know I've been a server at a restaurant before when I was younger, and I know it can get really crazy. Like, you're taking multiple orders, multiple tables. There's a lot going on, a lot of things to do, crazy multitasking. And so you have to make sure that you really have their attention. And so really reading if they're really listening to you or not is really important. And then if I don't feel like they're listening, then that's really my sign to ask for the manager.
But what you were saying is communication and watching their body language. And with COVID and everybody wearing masks now, I think that makes it even more important to clearly communicate and getting that, making sure that, because it's hard because it's muffled behind a mask. And having that card, I think, really does add to that level of communication.
Yeah, for sure. And I haven't gone out yet. When we were talking before, I haven't gone out during this COVID period yet to dine out. I live in Philadelphia, and it's been a very slow process of opening things. And now our numbers are going up, so I don't know exactly what will happen. But I personally have asthma, and I just haven't felt comfortable yet dining out. And I think what I've heard from friends who have gone out, and I've only, I feel like, had a few friends here, and they're going out, once or twice. And they've said that a lot has been done like on their cell phones, ordering and different, electronic ways, so that people are not really having that same communication. Right. So I'm definitely curious about that, because I think that will be definitely much more challenging to be able to trust and understand that they really hear you about the food allergy piece. And I'm sure there will be ways to figure that out as time goes on. And if this is, our new norm with wearing masks. But, at this point, it's definitely communication either way is critical, I think, to be able to have a safe meal and to, be able to enjoy yourself and feel like you can, trust where you're eating.
Yeah. And it's definitely going to be a challenge. And I know that some restaurants and hotels are going to be, reducing their menus. So they're not producing their 25-page menu. Why they want to do that, I don't know. But reducing their menu. So, I would hope, if chefs, if you're listening, when you're designing your menus, go ahead and be proactive with labeling them. because that helps so much. And I mean, we do want to know what your practices are in the back of the house. And that's a lot of food safety questions have come up from meeting planners now. You know, what are you doing differently? And I think labeling, this is the time to label and be more proactive and communicate about dietary needs.
Yeah, definitely. I think labeling is really important. Having a note, and this can go either way because I am originally from Massachusetts, where there was labeling laws, restaurant laws passed as far as, writing on your menu to let your server know if you have food allergies, for example. And some places actually are really great about that. And about like serving someone with food allergies. And it's honestly like people are so much more aware now of food allergies in Massachusetts that I think that was like the biggest change that made. But I know some restaurants are better at actually following that than others. So, but I think the more that I think labeling is great, and being really, having some sort of protocol at your restaurant as far as how you're going to have your customers tell you about the food allergies and like what they need in particular. And I know a frustration that I've heard from people in the restaurant industry and chefs is the people that don't actually have the food allergies and have more preferences. And hopeful for everybody in the restaurant industry right now that people are not being particular in their preferences at this time when things are challenging, but maybe making sure that it's food allergies that people are having, the note specific to food allergies, and just like the process that they want people to go through so that it's clear on both sides, the communication is clear.
Exactly. Okay. Now, and because you mentioned Massachusetts, where there's a really good restaurant, I can't say that I've actually eaten there, but Belly of the Beast, it's in, what is the address? Northampton. Are you anywhere near that?
Oh, no, I know Northampton, but no, that's actually near where I went to college.
Oh, okay. So they, my friend Sally introduced me to them, and they are a scratch kitchen, including butchering their animals and things like that. But Sally's got multiple food allergies as well, but they do a phenomenal job with labeling and altering their menus and things like that. So if you get back to the school place, go visit them. But what tips do you have when we get back to traveling for those who do have food allergies? What tips do you have? And I know you've got a ton on your website, so you definitely check out her website at missallergicreactor.com. But what can you tell us here?
Sure. There are so many, but I think starting with, planning and research, thinking about where you're going, what kind of food, if you're leaving the country, what kind of food, even in different areas of this, of the U.S., are known for different types of food. So thinking about that as far as what you're going to find when you're going out. For me, Italian type of food is the easiest for me with my food allergies. So something that I usually do if I'm feeling stuck about finding somewhere to eat out is that I look for like the closest Italian restaurant, because I know that type of food, that cuisine, typically there's something that I can eat. But so doing the research ahead is really helpful. So you don't feel stuck once you get there. I tend to go for booking Airbnbs or VRBO, any of those type of apartment type of bookings. I know you said you're going away this summer and you're doing that with your family, and you guys have a lot of food allergies. So I mean, that's something that I highly recommend. And especially, during this time with COVID too, that seems like probably a much safer option than, I know hotels are also trying to be really careful, it sounds like, but having your own separate place where you're not interacting with a lot of other people, I think is huge right now. So, so renting an apartment or renting a house is probably like a really great option. And one of the reasons I say that, even, when I travel for work, I travel for fun, all these different, reasons that I travel, but I try as much as I can to stay somewhere where I have either a refrigerator in the room so that I can go to the store and know that I can get some staple foods that I, can survive off of if I need to. Or also, if you can find like a kitchenette or, that's the great thing about renting an apartment, that you can do the cooking if you need to. And if you don't want to, and you end up being able to go out, I mean, then you have that option. But to have the option of being able to stay in an apartment and know, I mean, I think it's a peace of mind thing for a lot of people too. They know that they have that option.
Yep.
Be able, if they can't find somewhere safe, for their families to eat out. So, those are like really big ones. And then just, gosh, there's so many, but traveling wise, just like packing snacks. I mean, that's definitely been a savior for me in a lot of circumstances where it's really hard to find a snack on the go. Depending, honestly, even in the US, sometimes it can be challenging to find safe snacks on the go. So I always yeah. So
there was, somebody posted on LinkedIn yesterday that 7-Eleven, I don't know where it was in the country, posted online or posted a picture outside. It says, we know there's a lot of kids and families struggling right now to get food. So between the hours of 11 and 2, any kid under 18 can come in and get a fresh slice and a drink and a snack for free. And I don't know if it's just that specific one, but a couple of people, I mean, I could think of, that's not helpful for food allergic people, but that's not their intention at that point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
right.
it's just
like to me, I think that's a really nice thing that they're,
exactly.
That's something, right? That's really nice.
Yeah. And, and some people were like reaming them, but because it wasn't healthy, but I'm like, it's better to have a piece of pizza than to be hungry.
Exactly.
Some of those
for
things.
Sure.
And I just posted a link in the comments here. Allergic Living just posted a story about a woman who they went on a family trip, 1 car, 4 kids, 10 allergies, and how they pulled off an epic road trip. So I just posted that there. Erica, I know you might be going on field road trips with your kid. But yeah, I mean, it can be done. And
absolutely.
But like you said, it's pre-planning. Now, before we were almost to the 30-minute mark. So for the chefs that out there that are going to listen to this, what would you like them to know?
Okay. For the chefs, there's
or the meeting.
First of all, I think first I'd like to say thank you to all of the chefs who make it safe for those of us with food allergies to eat, because otherwise I would not be able to have all the amazing experiences I've had. And one of the things that you had asked and that we had talked about, like negative versus positive experiences dining out. And, I'm so thankful that I have so many positive experiences dining out. I've from all over, from, being here in the US to all over the world, I've had chefs who have done so many things to make my, meal enjoyable, and have been so kind. And I know, that it's so much extra work for you. So anyway, coming from me, I really appreciate that. And that's one of the things that I try to express in the food allergy community, is that like really a lot of it's about, gratitude. If someone's going to work with you and be willing to do that, that's, a really important thing. And, something to be really grateful for. I think for the chefs also, I mean, food allergies it's not like a choice. And I think a lot of you get that. So I'm probably just, reiterating something you already know, but, I wish that I could eat anything because I love food. But this is just, it will, if I eat these foods, they will kill me. So it's not, it's not a choice. It's something that is not a preference, but, I think also for the chefs who are like still, I guess, trying to figure out how to accommodate and make it safe, there are definitely some chefs in the food allergy community who share their experience as chefs, and I can probably give you, links of some people who do that, because I know that maybe it maybe for newer chefs in particular, it might feel challenging to figure out substitutions for different foods and things like that, or overwhelming, or like an overwhelming process because you're busy and you're making food for so many people and doing so many different things all at the same time, and, managing people and bringing food and doing all sorts of things. So I guess knowing that is appreciated, and then that also there are some chefs out there who have figured out sort of like a routine of how to make it more manageable. And so to reach out if you're looking for, a model of that, I guess.
No, that's a really good point. And I was talking to a chef yesterday from Revolution Foods, and we were talking about allergies and and starting from the basics. Take the meat, create something, and then remove some stuff and figure it out, and then make accompaniments to it. But make that a pattern and a routine of how you prepare food. And then he goes, it actually makes it more cost effective, easier, and not as stressful, to the back of the house or to the diner,
Yeah. I mean, simple foods can still be delicious.
Oh, so. Yes. And they're really good at making simple foods delicious.
Yeah.
Some of them are not, but hopefully
many have made delicious food for me. So
that's good.
I know it can be done. Yes.
So there was one question that I asked you is, what do you wish people knew about what you do? And your answer was really personal to me too, because you are like,
I figured you probably understand that same sort of feeling, right?
Yes. Yeah. So tell them what you told me or how you answered it.
Yeah. Something that I think people don't know about, I mean, I guess you could say bloggers, but like anybody who is in this space of trying to educate people, because I think of myself more as an educator. I mean, I'm trained in education. I have a master's in education. I was a teacher for years. So I think of myself more in that capacity than any others. But I think the amount of time and effort it takes, even just like to organize this, to do, to answer people who have questions, post things on social media and be thoughtful about what you're saying, and to make it helpful for people, because I'm always asking myself sort of the question of like, if I share this, is this going to be helpful for others? Like not making it about me, but making it about, how I can help them. But you can spend hours, days helping people and then not even getting like a response or a thank you back. And and it can feel very exhausting, I think. But then it's those people that do thank you and appreciate you that sort of like keep you going, because it otherwise can feel quite thankless sometimes. So yeah.
And it is, I mean, and looking at menus for what I do, because I help planners analyze their menus and take their list of their attendees' dietary needs from I worked an event, we had 658 people with dietary requests, and narrowing those menus down, that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And there was one chef, this was not that many people, but we had somebody that was allergic to apples, and sitting with the chef the day before, and he was radioing down to the kitchen saying, okay, show me the ingredient list of this sauce. And they said it, and we're like, oh, wait, we have to take that out. So it's a constant conversation that you have to have, because somebody might have added a new ingredient or, something, but it does take a lot of time. So for me, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you. You too.
You're welcome.
Also very important.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So are there, I've been randomly posting your social media and your website on the feed here, so everybody knows how to get a hold of you. You can find her template for her meal card that she showed, or her chef card that she showed. But are there any go-tos that you also use yourself?
For travel, I have a Facebook group for people who have food allergies with travel. I don't know how helpful that will be depending on who's watching, but it is a great resource for a lot of food allergy families, because people will share, restaurants and places that they've traveled that have been really accommodating for food allergies. Other resources like education wise, there's, the food allergy organizations have like the main information that you might need to access, as far as like, cross contact or just understanding more about like what could give somebody a reaction if they have a milk allergy, for example. Those little hidden foods that are little hidden ingredients that people don't naturally think of it. I don't have a dairy allergy, so I wouldn't necessarily think of it. And as a chef, I guess you have to know all of those things, which is a lot to know about different foods and ingredients. So, but those places, there's lists online, certainly. And probably, most of them know this, but looking on social media too, just like putting in hashtags on Instagram that you're, looking for information. There's a lot of people that share really good information. There's, if you, look for food allergy chef, that's probably a hashtag. And there are some people in the community. I'm like trying to think of what their actual, I'll give you the information of people that I'm thinking of, but,
right.
But there's definitely people out there that are good resources. So,
okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. So fun.
You're welcome. And everybody, in the feed there, I've posted all of her social media handles in there. And I think the only one I didn't do was LinkedIn. So I hope you don't mind everybody connecting with you on LinkedIn, or if they do.
Sure.
And she's got the blog and the Miss Allergic Reactor. So check that out. And she does have some resources for teachers as well. And, that actually reminds me of a story I saw. And it was a woman who posted, somebody shared it. And it was a woman who posted, she was griping because the parents of one of her students would not wear a mask. And she's like, but this mom wants me to make sure that my classroom is free of peanuts and nuts. And so it was a good analogy of, you want me to keep your kids safe in my classroom, but you don't want to wear a mask to keep me safe. So I think it's kind of hard in this day and age, but we have to put we have to wear each other's shoes.
Exactly. Lots of empathy needs to be put out there. Yeah.
All right. Sure. Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to following you and paying attention to your videos and learning more. And you're welcome. And this is Tracy with Thrive Meetings and Events and Eating at a Meeting. Thank you for tuning in. And this will be on the Facebook page, Thrive Meetings Events. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.